Hello, welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you bare bone basics as if you never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. Today, pot roast. I always say there's a million ways to make a pot roast. I'm just going to show you the simplest, most basic way. There's obviously variations, and you can get creative if you feel comfortable. First, let's talk about meat. This is a boneless chuck roast. I think that this is a great option. But honestly, most meat's gonna work. You wanna make sure it has some marbling. Me personally, I think this has a little too much fat on it for me. If I had picked my own cut, I don't think I would have picked this cut, but I ordered it for grocery pickup. So you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. This is gonna melt down and make tremendous flavor. I just wish there was a little bit less. Another great tip for cooking meat is you wanna try to get this to come a little bit warmer or to room temperature. So get your meat out first while you're getting out all your other ingredients, because that way it can come to room temperature and just cooks better that way. Ways to make it, when I was growing up, we used Montreal steak seasoning. I'm from Michigan. Maybe that's why, I don't know. You can use whatever seasonings you like. I think this is a great option. It has salt, pepper, garlic, which are the holy trinity. For me, this flavor just screams home. It just screams childhood. It screams pot roast to me. So I'm gonna generously season it, and I mean generously, on both sides. On my stovetop, I have small burners and I have large burners. I put my Dutch oven onto the large burner in order to get a nice sear and get this olive oil that I put in the bottom of the pan really hot. You can use any oil that is appropriate for cooking in. Some oils have lower smoke temperatures. This piece of meat is just a smidge under 2 pounds, which is pretty small for a roast, but I don't want it left over. So this should be plenty for dinner, and there'll still be a little bit for lunch the next day, I would imagine. Okay, our oil is nice and hot. We're gonna put it in here. I'm gonna move it just at first so it doesn't stick, and I'm gonna leave it for a minute or two and get a sear on each side. You need this pan to be deep, not only because you're gonna put vegetables and liquids, but also, as you can see, there's a lot of popping going on. This keeps the grease inside there. Okay, that's been going about 2 minutes. Now we're gonna flip it over and take a look. That's pretty good. Maybe 3 minutes would have been better. Now, the whole point of searing it like this is to create flavor. We're creating flavor in the bottom of the pan that we're going to scrape up. We're creating little edges of flavor, and each layer of flavor is going to build to that final dish having great flavor. Okay, now that we've created a beautiful crust, yeah, see, that looks perfect. We're going to take it out of the pan, and we're going to set it here just to chill out while we do everything else. Moving on to, I personally love this better than bouillon, so I'm gonna make my beef stock with better than bouillon. Okay, I've moved my pot over to the small burner. It has all my little crispy bits from when I did my beef, and I'm going to add the stock here and just scrape the bottom of this pan with a wooden spoon. This pan is still pretty hot, but I have the heat going. We've got our stock in here, and all we're gonna do before we put the meat back in is we're gonna go along with a wooden spoon and we're gonna scrape up all those little burny bits that were stuck to the bottom of this pot. All of those are delicious flavors. We want to get all of those. This is called deglazing the pan. You'll hear people do it with white wine. You can really do it with any liquid. This isn't stew. This is a pot roast, so we don't need that much liquid. This is really just a braising liquid. We might even have a touch too much liquid in here, but we're going to put a bunch of veggies in. We're going to put the pot roast back in. And if any juices, I didn't really have much juices, but if any juices come off, definitely pour those in too. Those are all flavor. We're gonna let it come up to a simmer. Like you see here, it's practically boiling, right? We're gonna cover it, and then we're gonna turn our heat down. Pot roast is gonna simmer away for a while we prep our veggies, okay? The meat can always cook a little bit longer than the veggies. So I already peeled these carrots and cleaned them. We use hearty root vegetables like carrots because they hold up well in the pot roast. I'm just gonna chop them into like large bite-sized chunks. I want them to stay intact while they cook for a long time in the liquid. So I don't want them to be too small, but I want them to be a size where I can pop the whole thing in my mouth. So that's probably about inch and a half. These are big, fat carrots. We've got carrots and we've got potatoes. Y'all know I don't like onion if you've watched this series before, but a pot roast needs an onion. I'm just gonna chunk my onion up into 4 big wedges. I'm just gonna add the vegetables here into the pot. Because we're adding another element, I'm gonna put a little sprinkle of salt, sprinkling of pepper. It's always a good idea to season each element. Okay, then I'm just gonna, try to work these veggies down into the liquid a little bit. They don't have to get in there. It's basically gonna steam. So we're gonna put the lid back on and we're gonna let this simmer for hours. All the components were cold when we added them, so we're gonna crank up the heat and just get this bubbling again. We're gonna cover it and then we're gonna turn the heat down to low and let it go. After 5 hours of simmering away slowly on the burner, I pulled it out. Here it is in all its beautifulness, and I covered it with a little bit of salt to finish. I'm going to make a gravy out of the liquid that we have left over, and I'll make that in a separate video so that it'll just be its own standalone gravy video. If it's not falling apart, if it's still tough, then cook it longer. At 3 hours, it definitely wasn't done. So we went for 5, and it's perfect.